Greetings, fellow songwriters and seekers, and welcome back to Muse Measure. If you haven't done so yet, hit the guy on the lotus pedal down below and subscribe to benefit from all these great, deep questions to tackle all these existential issues that we deal with as songwriters. I have a question here about improvisation from Hannah Schultz in Madison, Wisconsin. I was just there last summer. Really enjoyed Madison. I went there to go see the site where Otis Redding's plane went down. And while I was there, the most horrific storm rolled in, so it was quite a ominous throwback to that moment. So Anna asks, I should say Hannah, not Anna, is improvisation something that leads to better songwriting, or is it a completely different skill? Well, I think it's both. It depends on what you mean by improvisation. So, when I studied jazz for a while, I practiced improvising over certain chord progressions and getting good and fluent about switching different modes and into different chords, into different tonal centers, and just got, much more dexterity in my fingers to be able to play quickly and to run up the scales and do things like that. Now, did that help me as a songwriter? Well, it certainly helped me as a guitarist, and it definitely helped me as a musician. So I think it did feed into that, but I wouldn't necessarily say that directly helped me as a songwriter. But when I do improv now, when I'm not playing jazz tunes, because I still like to play jazz tunes. I'm not a jazz musician, though. I mean, I made a conscious choice at a time, like, do I want to focus my efforts on getting really good at jazz and improvising and getting that skill level and my chops up so that I can improvise at that level? Or do I want to spend more of my time focused on writing songs and being a recording artist? And I decided, obviously, on the latter, because being a jazz musician really takes so much. It takes like 8 hours a day of your time. And that would be great to devote that much time to any pursuit, but you also have to make a living. And jazz is not as appreciated as it should be. It's still probably my favorite music to go see live and to listen to at home. But at some point you have to pick what you're going to do with your time and your efforts and your career. And so I chose instead to be a songwriter. Maybe that was the wrong choice. I don't know. So when I'm doing improv as a songwriter, it's more about getting into the flow and getting outside of that very constricting, critical, judgmental aspect of our mind that ruins the flow. It gets us out of it. It even ruins our day-to-day experience. And this is the spiritual aspect to it, is that, so what meditation does, at least one aspect of it, is it gives us some distance from our thoughts so that we can, first of all, see them as thoughts, but also so that they don't necessarily ruin the party all the time. And maybe they have less weight, and they, certain thoughts pop up and they immediately change the tone. It's like turning into a minor chord. It just takes us away from the moment and kind of ruins the experience. And I challenge you next time, if you remember to do this, like anytime you're really enjoying something or you're supposed to be having a great time, everything is great. Maybe you're watching a great movie or listening to some great music, or you're with somebody you really appreciate, or you got something that you really wanted. Just see how quickly a little thought comes in your head where you're dissatisfied or you're just moving on to the next thing. It just this egoistic mindset, and these are thoughts and concepts that come in and ruin our day-to-day experience and really take us out of the now. And that's what meditation does. And it's, I think, a similar type of situation that's going on as we're improvising, or any type of writing. We're sitting down, even we're not improvising, we're just coming up with things, playing chords, we're writing in our songwriting journal, whatever it is, whatever your means of communicating are in that moment, there are things that block the flow. And I think that is this default mode network that our brain has, that we've evolved to survive, but no longer serves a purpose, unless we're really in a survival situation. It just is constant discursive thought, thinking about, oh, well, what's next? Or that bastard, put me down earlier today, or said some kind of snarky remark to me, or just whatever thought pops up. It takes us out of the flow, and the flow is just being in the present moment. And so improvising is a way of really being in a meditative state as well. And you can approach it that way. And I really suggest that you do. And maybe even do 5 minutes, 10 minutes of meditation before you do some improvisation. You know, if you read David Lynch's book, Catching the Big Fish, he probably would advocate that you do transcendental meditation. And I know Jerry Seinfeld's really into that too. Plus, you know, so many people have done it. The Beach Boys, the Beatles. That's using a mantra. And so I think that's really powerful for people. I don't use that. I use shamatha vipassana meditation. But whatever, you know, means you have of getting into that kind of openness, that state of just letting things go, the way, you know, getting out of the way so that you can just be in the way, and getting into that flow state. And that, I think, really helps any type of songwriting or any type of writing or just your day-to-day lived experience. The more you can get your thought process, your ego out of the way, the more powerful your songs are going to be. The easier it is going to be to come up with good ideas, and just the happier you're going to be with what you come up with, but also just a happier person in general. I think this default mode network that we're always slipping back into is what's causing us any type of anguish or dissatisfaction with our life, because reality is reality, and we can either be in nirvana or be in samsara, and it's really up to our mental state in the moment and how attached we are to our thoughts and our concepts. And so getting those out of the way really allows us to be. And that's how improv, I think, really helps with songwriting. And I've come up with a lot of things as I've been doing this for a very long time where they're almost full songs, and I just need to do some tweaking. So that's when, you know, the grunt work comes in, where they're sitting in and analyzing each word and making it so you really like it. But you come to the table with something that's much more genuine and I don't know, much more organic to your own thought processes, because it just came from a flow moment as opposed to sitting down and meticulously writing line by line what's going to happen next. Nothing wrong with that, and often that makes for great songs as well. But I think, you know, it's like getting into the flow is just where it's at, you know, and I've really come to appreciate those moments and to use them as the beginnings of songs. A great example of this is, you know, Paul McCartney in the Get Back, very long documentary about their recording of Let It Be and then Abbey Road, where he's coming up with the song Get Back. And you just see him, you know, he's just in the flow. It's just coming out of him. He's just pouring out of him. And throughout that whole documentary, he's just in the groove. He's got all these songs just pouring out of him, and he just can't stop playing. So I think if we can get in that mode of flow, then we're in a good place. We're in the place of genius. So improvisation, it is a skill in itself. But wherever you're at with it, even if you're just doing it off one chord and you just have very simple melodies, you know, just pick up a guitar, play an easy chord like E minor. I found my heart beating in your eyes, then you can try to find where my mind lies. So you could just even improvise just melodies, or, you know, try to add lyrics to it. Sometimes the lyrics get in the flow, sometimes they are not. Sometimes your melody's in the flow, sometimes it's not. And it's not like you're going to sit down and have immediate success, but doing this as a part of your songwriting practice, I think, will bear some incredible fruit for you. So that's how I say it really helps your songwriting. It becomes your songwriting, or one of the steps of your songwriting process, where you come up with ideas. And even when you're sitting down with a pen and paper and you're just going line by line and you come up with chord progression, stuff like that, you're still improvising. You're just having, you know, it's very abrupt, or you have these, it's what's the term I should use? It's in little spurts. You have little spurts of improvisation where you're just playing around, you find something, oh, write it down. Then you know, as opposed to just letting it flow out. And the best moments are when I can sit down and I just like get out of the way and I just let it come through me. That's my favorite moment. And that's the real skill of improv, is getting out of the way. and learning how to be more attuned with yourself and watching what's really going on inside of you and expressing it. So you're kind of witnessing what's going on with you physically, emotionally, and when the thoughts come up, expressing them. And then they're exposed to the elements. You become kind of objective of them, and they become the material for your song. And sometimes it's just silly, like the one I just came up with, or sometimes it's really profound what you come up with, and you come up with things that you wouldn't have ever come up with if you had sat down and wrote one line, tried it out, wrote a different line, tried it out, because flow just has a magical power. And there's lots of great books about this. If I find some that I recall, I will put them down in the comments down below. All right. Well, thank you so much, Hannah, for that great question. And if you have any comments or further questions, please put them down below. I'd love to hear from you. Best of luck with your songwriting, your improvisation, and your spiritual practice, which hopefully is blending all into one. All right. Take care.